Welcome back to Female Voices, Life and Loss. And you are with Wayna Berry and one of my besties. She may not think she's my bestie, but I'm going to tell you, this is my bestie. One of my besties, Danielle Frazier. So, Danielle, introduce yourself. Tell the people all about you.
Well, as she said, I'm Danielle Frazier. I'm a licensed professional counselor by night. By day, I work for a publishing company. Been there for 25 years. And yeah, I'm busy
Who can say
like
that? Who can
like
say
most
25?
Americans. It's kind of hard to believe. So it's been 25.
Yeah, that means you're having fun, though. You're
Yes,
enjoying
I
it.
do. I love it. And I'm glad to be able to, still be there and still do the therapy, which I also love.
It's kind of rare to have two passions, right, in career fields.
Hmm.
'Cause I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I do use a lot of my people skills too, but a
Mhm.
lot of just the way my brain thinks systematically. So it's really fulfilling because of that, like deadlines and due dates and all that. So yeah, it
Yeah.
works.
So, family, I know Danielle through a retreat that we went to for Walter's Walk, and I am always late to things that I don't really want to go to. I'm gonna say that where I'm just like, this is gonna be boring. So I'm there 10 minutes late. It's an area of improvement for me to work on. So, but I arrive late and I sit next to Danielle. And then so we're like the chatty Cathys in the classroom. And so
Yeah.
everybody is looking over at us because we are having a blast. We were having
Yeah.
a blast. They
Yeah.
are having like way too much fun. I want to be at the cool kids table.
They were very quiet.
And you've heard me. I'm not.
Mhm.
once we get close, it's over. It's over. You're hearing it all. All right.
Right.
So I asked Danielle to be on the podcast because of her breast cancer journey, and I wanted her to kind of tell us about that journey. And so hers was a little bit unique, meaning she had a doctor really advocating for her to take this seriously. And so tell us how all of that unfolded, because it wasn't, you didn't have that then, but you had a family history, if I'm telling the story right,
Yes.
so tell us all about
Yes. So that's correct. So I have a family history. At the point, I was trying to think of the year, but
that.
it's all a blur, kind of. I can't remember if it was 2016, 17, somewhere in there. And my gynecologist, you come in for your yearly appointment and they ask you about your family, who's had what. And so fill that out. And so she said, okay, you have 4 maternal aunts that have had breast cancer. And I think one of the things that was alarming to her was, I've seen her for a very long time. And I just found out like 2 days ago that she's retiring. So I'm trying to process that. I am very it's time, I understand, but I got to figure out how to deal with that. But my point is I've seen her for a very long time. And so I think for her over the years, like I had one aunt, and then like a couple years later I had 2 aunts. Like the number was going up. And I think
Right,
at this point she was like, okay, now you have 4. And so she was like,
right.
okay. And she said, I think I need to refer you to an oncologist to
Mhm.
do this high risk assessment. And so whatever year that she said that, I'm guessing
Mhm.
2016, 17, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So she gave me the name, number. I never called. 360, you have to wait 365 days. So let's say 368 days later, I come back like, hey. And so she walked in the room and she looked at me and she said, you didn't go. Now, mind you, a lot has happened in my life in 368 days. I don't know what she's talking about. And she
That's what I was gonna
just
say.
said,
Did you even
yeah,
know?
I had no idea because she didn't come in and say, oh, let's review from last year, or she just came in, not how you been, none of that. She looked at me
Okay,
and said, yeah. She just said,
you
you
gotta
didn't
say,
go. Yeah.
is this a doctor of color?
Yes, she
So,
is. She is
and
brown.
being a woman of color, we
Hmm.
talk to each other certain ways. You have been with her for a long time.
Hmm.
She does not have to do the bedside
Mm-mm.
doctor.
Mm-mm.
She could
No.
do the sister girl,
Hmm. Yeah.
mentor coach type thing.
Yes. Yes. That was her second time ever doing that.
Mm.
And she's also a Christian. And that's important because she's sensitive to, okay, she's listening for direction. And so, even if she wasn't, I take her very seriously because she's really good at what she does. But because of that, at this point that she's now chastising me, and she said, and now the person she referred me to, she said she's not even taking new patients anymore. And so I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to refer you to someone else. Fast forward. So after that whole conversation, needless to say, I went and contacted the oncologist. I was not having any more issues with my gynecologist. No. So I
Thank
followed
you,
up.
gynecologist. You're
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, she really pushed it. Um, yeah, so I went and part of my reason for not going, some of it is because I was just like, what's the point? It doesn't make sense. I don't have cancer. Who goes to an oncologist? So I just had all kinds of random, we'll just call them random thoughts because it didn't make sense to me.
So
So
family,
yeah.
I'm gonna say this. My friend here is a slow burner. So she has to go through the process.
Yes, I
It's a
did.
certain process. It's one
Yeah.
way, and she gotta make it make sense. You gotta make.
I'm trying to get better. Trying to get better because I will overthink and mull over it and all that. And this, I don't know. So I finally went and they
Mhm.
did genetic testing. Well, first she did like this whole assessment and they determine if you are high risk. There's a score, is a way that they score it based on family history and what other factors I don't remember. And at the end of it, she said, "Oh yeah, you're definitely high risk." So they did the
Mhm.
genetic testing. And then, so you
Is that just
just blood work. And they sent it off to somewhere. And it took a little while. And they run they check for all of these genetic, mutations or genes or whatever. And, because they're trying to see if you have, at that point, I think it was like the BRCA1 and BRCA2. There are other genes now that they test for, but all the genes that they knew at that point that were linked to breast cancer, I didn't have any of them.
okay?
So that was interesting. I didn't have any of them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's good news, right? So, and the other thing that came with the high risk status was you get the yearly mammogram at whatever
Mhm.
age that starts for people. But I
Mhm.
was also eligible to get an MRI every year as well. So,
Yeah.
I get one scan, let's
Mhm.
say in January, and 6 months later, I get the next one. And so it was, so pretty much every 6 months I'm getting scanned. And so that
Mhm.
was the other part that I had access to now was the
Mhm.
MRI.
So how long did
Yep.
this go on? Every 6 months, I'm
Ugh,
testing.
probably 2 or 3 years.
Oh
Two or
wow.
three
Okay.
years.
Mhm.
I did the every 6 months. I know I can remember very clearly 19 and 20. Yeah, I think 18 too, but
Mhm.
it's fuzzy. But 19
Okay.
and 20 for sure. And
Mhm.
then 2021. And that's when they found something in 2021. It was interesting because I just had my mammogram like June of 2021. 6 months later, which would be December, I had the MRI. That's what we've been doing. So it's close to the holidays, and I got a message in my chart
Mhm.
and it's kind of funny, but the oncologist that had been sort of following me throughout these years, she was like retiring. And so she ultimately retired, but at this point, she wasn't there anymore. I don't really know what exactly happened, but so they assigned me to a different oncologist, which was funny because she was the oncologist that my GYN had referred me
Original
to
person.
the first time. When I saw her name, I was like, this is so funny. So it was kind of full
Look
circle.
at
I was
me.
like, I finally got to meet you. So she sent me a message in my chart and she just said, this is probably nothing, but let's do the ultrasound. The ultrasound. Now, I didn't know I didn't even know what she was talking about. So when I looked at my chart, I saw that they had seen something and they
Mhm.
wanted to do an ultrasound.
Mhm.
And that's how so then I did that. And the ultrasound, in my mind, I was thinking, And she was looking like, well, because she was trying to debate on if she wanted to do a biopsy. And in my mind, I'm like, no, please no. Because, yeah, I had already gone through 2 other biopsies, not in my breast, but like my lymph nodes were swollen. Like in 2019 and 2020, I had biopsies as a result of my MRI. Something
Mhm.
was happening in one lymph node, then the next year, the other lymph node. Now, 2021, they see something in my breast. So I'd already had 2 biopsies, right? They weren't in the breast,
Mhm.
but it wasn't pleasant. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm
yeah. I
like,
had one
I'm
in my
laying
head.
there. Yeah, they're not pleasant. I mean, they're
All
necessary,
right,
but
it's right.
so she's kind of doing the little thing like, well,
You over here, Jesus.
and I'm laying there like, no biopsy, no biopsy, right? And so she's like, well, she's literally saying this out of her mouth. And I'm like, just say no. I think I'm gonna biopsy. And well, after the fact, I was like, oh, I'm so glad she didn't listen to my inner chatter. But
Mhm.
so yeah, so they did the biopsy, and then January 2022 is because I'd already gone through 2 biopsies. I knew the process. I knew how long it took. They weren't
Mhm.
calling me back, so I was getting suspicious.
Because it wasn't an
And
instant call. It's
yeah, it
good.
wasn't the time frame that I knew. I had already
Mhm.
had experienced this 2 years in a row. So I
Mhm.
knew, even though they were testing something different maybe this time, I was like, and so I called, and
Mhm.
the nurse, she's like, "Oh, the doctor didn't call you?" Well, that didn't make me feel better. And
Right. Why
I
do we
said,
need to go to the
"No."
doctor?
Yeah, what are you saying? Why can't you just like send me a note in my chart? And she just asked
Yeah.
that I want her to read the diagnosis, and I said, "Yeah, the results rather." And I said, "Yeah," and that's when she told me, and I just
Wow.
sort of stood there like, "Okay, yeah, yeah."
What were your initial thoughts, emotions? What came up after hearing that?
Initially I was sort of stunned, like,
Mhm.
wow. But I had peace. And I remember thinking, okay, God, where are you? Because it's like, if I don't latch on to something, I could start to spiral. So I was
Yeah.
really just I was stunned. I just stood there, and
Mhm.
she was extremely wonderful, the nurse, and she was very reassuring. She said, well, it's
Mhm.
really small, and she was saying all the right things, right? Even though she couldn't predict what would be what.
Right.
Her approach and how she spoke to me was very, very comforting, and she offered to call the surgeon.
Mhm.
And so that was good. And she
Yeah.
even said, do you want me to call the surgeon? Do you have a surgeon? And I'm thinking, no, who has a random surgeon?
Mhm. Mhm.
And she said, well, I can call. Yeah. So she said, I can call the surgeon that did my breast surgery 20 years ago. So when she said
Oh,
that was
wow.
encouraging. Right. So then
Yeah.
it was like, it was just like a flicker of hope that I didn't know I
Yeah.
really needed. And so I was just sort of flat. I wasn't hysterical.
Mhm.
I was just still.
Mhm.
And it was surreal, right? Because I
Yeah.
knew I had to have this conversation with my mom and
Mhm.
people. I think I may have called my pastor or
Mhm.
texted
Mhm.
her or something. I was just
Yeah.
stunned and just trying to navigate what to do next as far as people goes, and what is it going to mean for my life. So,
Yeah, I was in the room with my girlfriend Shannon, and it's different,
hmm
when you hear
hmm
that,
I
because
think being
Shannon's
at home actually helped.
good. We were at the doctor's office,
hmm hmm I don't
and I
know
might have
why.
told her on that too. Like, no, I'm gonna go with you to
Yeah.
hear these results.
Yeah, I don't know why it seemed to have helped. I think because I was just in my environment, and
Mhm.
I didn't have to do the long, weird drive home.
Yeah, I'm glad I was with Shannon
hmm
because
hmm
I don't know that she remembered anything after they said that. To be honest,
hmm hmm
'cause you're
hmm
still stuck on that last sentence. What?
hmm hmm
What?
Yeah.
And so I think I started writing down everything. I was like, okay,
hmm
what's it look like? What's this? Who does she need to call? The surgeon? Who else? And
hmm Yeah.
okay,
I was
and
taking notes. I was the
oh,
note
good,
taker. Yeah.
good. No, her,
So I
yeah.
just okay. Now you said what? So I was taking notes. I still have them in my phone. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah,
Yeah,
somebody
she
being there, I could imagine was helpful because there may have been things I missed, but I had
yeah,
what I
and that's
needed. But I'm sure
right.
there's probably some details I didn't get.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there a moment when everything shifted and you went from shock or fear to acceptance or determination?
I think for me, I'm still this way even
Mhm.
now because I still go get scanned every 6 months,
Yeah.
and I think my position on it was I'm going to do what I can do, but I really needed God to do what only He could do. Right. And
Mm,
so my fight was to do what they recommended, but to trust God for what only nobody else could do. Right. And
mm,
so it took, so full disclosure, like when I see t-shirts like, I beat cancers, whatever, and all
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I don't
Mhm,
like those kind of shirts for me personally, because I
mhm,
know that I didn't beat cancer. Right. I know that I followed the process of what they told me, and the
mhm,
healing that I have right now is sustained by God. And so
mhm,
my position going through the treatment was, God, you have to help me walk through this. Cause I
mhm,
can't, I mean, who am I? Like, how am I going to kick cancers anything? Like, I'm just cooperating with the science and
mhm.
trusting the supernatural where the natural runs out. And so that
Right.
was my position. And it was
Good,
like, you know what I mean? So it kept me stable through the
good.
process. And that's the only thing I can attribute it to, because I had people ask me, are you going to take off? Or you go? And I was like, and do what? Stare at the wall? Stress myself out? And so my position was
Mhm,
trust
mhm.
and compliance.
Yeah.
Whatever they recommend, I'm going with it. Yeah.
With that trust and compliance, did anything kind of come up for us like when you started treatment? Did you find just going through the process changing your emotion in any way? Or are you just like, I'm dug into the Lord and He's going to take care of me?
Through the treatment wasn't I was pretty it was almost like being in a I don't even know how to describe it. Almost, I don't want to say like the Twilight Zone, but
Mhm.
I was just fixed on what I had to do. Right.
Yeah.
So after surgery, and then I started radiation. So every morning I would get up, I would work out, and I would go to
Mhm.
radiation, and I would come back home and work. And they told me exercise could be good. So I did something at home, and I did that like every day for radiation. I just went through that process, came home,
Mhm.
and it probably wasn't. And sometimes when you're doing a radiation, they play music. And so you
Mhm.
get to choose your genre. And so I would just go in there, and they get to know your station. And so, you're
Mhm.
just, you connect with the people. So I try to keep my mind out of the fear as much as
Mhm.
possible, right? Because I knew that if I went down that slippery slope, it would only complicate my treatment, right? So I was just trying to just stay in this space of just trust and compliance. I'm just going to get up
Mhm.
every day and do what these people are telling me to do. And that's what I
Mhm.
did. So it wasn't until after I finished treatment that I started to
Mhm.
struggle.
Mhm.
Emotionally, it came after the treatment. Like throughout the treatment, it was an
Mhm.
inconvenience because you're being poked and you're being pried and you
Mhm.
hurt in some places. So it wasn't pleasant, but
Mhm.
it wasn't as an emotional roller coaster as it was when after I finished. Yep. After I finished.
What do you feel like that the roller coaster came later after you finished everything?
After I finished, it was the fear of reoccurrence.
Mm.
That it hit me like it was like a ton of bricks. Like I couldn't shake it. It was like
Mhm.
every day. And I don't remember at what point after treatment, but
Okay.
after treatment, you're like, okay, we're good. I rang the bell, hugged the people. Hope I never
Mhm.
see you all again. I
Real.
said, unless we're at the grocery store, something like that, I'm good.
Not here.
But after that, it was almost like just the thought. So it's like that whole time. And I think the only other time was like when I had to tell my mom or
Mhm.
things. When I talked to my mom, that was probably the other emotional difficulty because it was really difficult for her. And so trying to manage other people's emotions was probably
Mm-mm.
throughout treatment was probably the hardest part on my emotions was other people's
Mhm.
emotions. But after it just hit me like, what if this comes
Mm.
back? What is that going to mean? And that was the battle. That was the hardest part. And in retrospect, that was the hardest part. Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel like just with your PhD and psychology, do you feel like that helped kind of cope throughout that process, just knowing the basics?
Mm-mm.
Nope.
Nope.
So real
Not at
life happens
all.
like a regular person, just like
I'm
everybody.
just regular Danielle. The counseling degrees, none of that. Because here's the thing I tried everything to rationalize and, in fairness, I tried to use the things that I know cognitively and but I just couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake it. I could not. And it was weighing me down. And no, and I didn't talk about it because
Why
I was
not?
already trying to manage people's emotions, right? So
That's
my
what we do.
support, I know, but I
You
probably
can
need to talk
help you.
right. I probably need to talk to a therapist, like somebody outside of my circle, right? But I just, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So don't get me.
She's not using her own advice.
Don't fuss at me. But I didn't. But it was getting so
No, this
bad.
is you though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't. I was like, and it was kind of crazy because I was like, surely Danielle, why I couldn't. And it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And literally, I was praying. So I was doing everything I knew to do, right? Like I said earlier, the natural things, I'm praying, I'm using the skills that I have all these student loans for, all the things, right? All the theories, the techniques, nothing was sustaining it, right? So you may get temporary relief, like, okay, I'm good. And then it was just like reoccur, like the thoughts. It was just constant. And I'm praying, I'm like, God, you got to do something. Like, I don't know what else to do. And I can remember one day, once again, I'm bombarded with this fear, paralyzing fear. And
Yeah.
I was just, no, I don't even know what I was doing, but I was just kind of crying out to God, like, God, you gotta do something. Like, I got nothing else. I'm tapped out. And I can remember like wherever I was sitting, like I'm at my desk a lot, like now, and it was like I could hear, and it's not like audibly, but I knew focus on a healthy lifestyle.
Mhm.
Stop focusing on reoccurrence and focus on a healthy lifestyle. And it was
Mhm.
like that switch, literally in that moment. God is my witness. It
Mhm.
totally shifted my brain, and I never worried about it like that again. It
It's
literally, it like it broke it. It broke the thing that I could not reason away. I could not therapy it away. I couldn't even pray it away. It's like God intervened somehow that I can't explain, but I know from that point on, that's where my focus went. And that's where my focus is today. And over these years, it's been the revelation of what that means. Because you hear that, you're like, okay. And so you start with what you know, but it's been a journey to understand what that means. And I'm still learning.
that whole experience. You told us how it's kind of affected you, but just, man, some lessons for anybody else just kind of right where you are. They just found out or they just finished treatment and they are like, oh my God, what do I do next? What are some lessons, some takeaways?
For who've been diagnosed, at whatever stage you're in, you definitely need support. You need people. Um, depending on where you're being treated, they have a lot of support. I utilize like the dietitian, because they talk a lot about, how to eat and, things to help you while you're going through treatment. So I would say definitely utilize the resources. They even have mental health professionals there. That's the part that the mental health professional did not use. So don't be like me. Utilize that. I would suggest you utilize that. I would suggest whatever you do for support, if you're, a Christian or whatever you believe in, tap into the things that keep you going because you need that. And you need trusted people. You need people that can help hold you up. So I would recommend people let people help, let people in. You may not let everybody in, but let people in. And I would say too, for people who have not been diagnosed, who maybe know someone who has, but it hasn't touched them personally, I encourage them to get screenings. I'm a big advocate of getting your mammograms. If you have a family history, talk to your doctors about getting an assessment for high risk, see if there are other screening opportunities for you. Because the one thing that I do know is not knowing doesn't change the facts, right? So if you don't know, it doesn't mean that it's not there. Because I found that in this journey of talking to people, people avoid, like people don't want to go.
Yeah.
I did a commercial for Sightman and my
Mhm.
cousin was in it. And, people were talking about it and we had this video. And so
Mhm.
my cousin's a real estate agent and she would say, I'm pushing houses and mammogram. So we would joke, but very serious. And one day
Yeah.
she texted me, like, send me the link to the video. She was sending it to one of her clients because she asked her,
Mhm.
have you had your mammogram? And the lady said,
Mhm.
no, I'm afraid to go. She was like, they keep calling to remind me, but I'm scared. And so my cousin
Mhm.
was able to take our video, send it to the lady, and explain to her what I'm saying. Like, don't be
Mhm.
afraid enough to not
Right.
go. Being afraid is understandable, especially if you having symptoms or if you have family history or you're just concerned that something could be there. Don't
Right.
let that fear keep you from going, because the one thing the surgeon told me is early
Mhm.
detection. That is as
Mhm.
good as we get. In the science has come a long way, but the early
Mhm.
detection is the key. And so again, not knowing doesn't change the facts. So nobody wants to hear that, but you want to hear it on when it's early. Because for
Mhm.
me, I had that scan in December. Without
Mhm.
that extra scan, I wouldn't have had my mammogram until the following June. So it would have
Mhm.
been 6 months later that this tumor would have been growing in my body. and
Mhm.
that and that's the part that I know my gynecologist played a key role in, because without the extra screening, I don't know what my prognosis would have been for another
Mhm.
6 months of something growing in your body that you don't even know is there. So get
Yeah.
screened, don't put it off. Take a friend with you. If you some people, I get it, it's not comfortable, it's not easy to do, but it's necessary.
Okay, let's see. We got some closing. In closing, how do you continue to honor your journey and your healing each day? Now, I'm going to answer this for her. She's going to tell me if I'm wrong. So, she is very adamant about working out and eating healthy. So,
Yeah.
whenever we hang out, we got to find something healthy.
Yes, this is
So,
true. Part of my healthy lifestyle journey is the eating, the moving the body, the exercising. It's also sleep, getting
mhm.
adequate sleep, and
Yeah.
reducing stress. So those are every day I wake up, I endeavor to do those things. Every day is not a perfect day, but that
Hmm.
is my goal every day, is to go to sleep, to get somewhere between 6 to 8. I'm really trying to get that 7 to 8, but somewhere between that 6 to 8 hours of sleep.
Hmm.
Trying not to let things stress me out perpetually, because
Good.
I've lived in a state of chronic stress. And
Mm,
so
yeah, that's
trying
good.
to not do that. So yes, every day. Um,
Yeah.
those are the four things that I endeavor to do every.
So this is Danielle's life after cancer, and that is how she is taking care of her body. She's want to live. What they
Yeah,
say, eat to live and not live to eat. Those
right.
kind of things. Taking care of
Yeah, and
yourself.
I'm just trying to do my part. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
do my part. That's what
yeah.
I tell people. I do this because this is the part I can do. I can't control
Mhm,
what I can't control. I can't control my genetics. I can't control the environment. There are a lot of things that we can't control, right? But I can control what I put in my mouth, if I
mhm,
move my body, what I let
mhm.
stress me out, and when I go to sleep. I can control those. So that's what I try to do.
So she can get the 8 hours if she stopped doing something comes off the table, so she can go to
I,
bed and
I
get 8.
know, I know. But I'm at seven. I'm
Okay.
working on seven. I'm somewhere between six and seven.
Okay.
6 and 7.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm sure that if her client told her this, she would not go for that.
No,
6 and 7.
I'm trying. I'm a work in progress. I don't want
We
anyone who
all
hears this to think I have arrived, because I have not. It is a
okay.
one day at a time. And that's how I keep it from being overwhelming. I just take it one day at a time.
Yeah,
Today, this is what we're going
all
to do.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking for the rest of my life, I have to do this. Oh my God. No. All I have is today. Yep. Today.
So, how can our listeners connect with you or work with you? Now, she's booked because I once a month, but I'll let her tell y'all.
Let's see, what would be the easiest way? I think the easiest way would be to go find me on Psychology Today. I
Mm-hmm.
have a page there if you're looking for counseling services. I think that would
Mm-hmm.
be the easiest way to find me. And you type in my name, it pops up. Yep.
Yes. So you see this beautiful lady's picture when it pops up on Psychology Today. So our guest today has been Danielle Frazier. She shared with us her journey with breast cancer. And she said she did not kick anybody's butt, but the Lord is the person who kicked breast cancer's butt, and she's giving him all glory. And I'm with you because some of these things is only a God journey. It's only Him that can explain how everything lined up.
Yes, ma'am.
And our Lord, He will do it. He will do it all day because He's done it for me. So I can't, I know where you are. So, friends, get your screenings. It's very important. Do your monthly checks. It's very important.
Very
Two
important.
of my family members and girlfriend found it. The hospital didn't find it. They were the ones that found it.
I'm so glad you point that out.
So seriously, because I'm one of those people too. Maybe my cycle's irregular and everything else, so I'm not checking. No, but there is a history that I'm learning for my own family as well. So my relative, if you're hearing this, get checked. We do have a history. My uncle had cancer. My aunt now has breast cancer, and one of my younger cousins has had breast cancer. So it is real, it is serious, and we as minorities especially, we have to take better care of our health. And that's food, that's physically, that's emotionally, mentally, like we got to get better instead of just white knuckling it through everything. We don't have to do that anymore. We have communities, we have spaces, we have Psychology Today where Danielle and I both are on. Take care of yourself. Choose you first. So thank you so much for being with me and willing to do this with me.
Yes,
can't wait till we hang out again soon.
I know. So, yes.
So much fun. It's always so much fun. But thank you. Thank you all for listening to Female Voices, Life and Loss. And